In this video, we're going to talk about how Google Ads uses the wrong settings to cost you more money than you should be paying for your ad.
Should we focus on conversions for a brand new account?
Am I going to get punished if I don't accept Google's recommendations here?
What we're also going to do is we're going to talk about optimization score and how it can lead you down the wrong path when it comes to making your ads more affordable.
I tell them this: never trust Google. Never trust Google.
If we would talk about this legally, it's very close to false advertising.
The next thing we're going to do is we're going to cover how to set up your ad comprehensively, and we're going to show you every little trick that Google uses to get you to spend more.
Because Google has gotten very good at manipulating people over the years.
It has lost the ability to see its own platform from the eyes of a newbie.
And last but not least, we'll be going over ad recommendations and showing you which ones will help and which ones will hinder your business's progress.
And when is it advice that is more useful to Google's pockets and not yours?
My name is Devin Thomas, and I'll be joined by Pamela Wagner, an ex-Google Ads employee who's optimized over 3,000 different ad accounts, and together we've helped entrepreneurs all over the world figure out how to get their Google Ads more profitable. So stick around, it's going to be a good episode.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. And today we are going to be talking about how Google Ads manipulate you into spending a lot more money than you actually want to spend. We've had some crazy stories over the years, both me and Pamela. And what we're going to do with this episode is, guys, we're going to save you money because Google has gotten very good at manipulating people over the years. I am very pleased to be joined on this episode by an ex-Google employee. And what she's going to do is she's going to tell us everything that she learned both on our customer side, but also while she was working for Google. So Pamela Wagner, welcome to the podcast. Let's talk about tricks or tips or ways that Google Ads get you to spend more money.
I think, Devin, what's important to mention at first, we're not here to bash Google. What we're here for is to literally let you know you should be on the lookout and not blindly accept everything that Google tells you to do, because Google has different interests from your business. We just want to help you make that differentiation of like, hey, when do I accept something that Google says? When is that advice actually useful for my business? And when is it advice that is more useful to Google's pockets and not yours? What do you think are like the most common default settings that people just miss?
The first thing that I think is a lot of people that I speak to, they don't even know you can have different types of campaigns in Google Ads. When you start an account, what Google Ads kind of does is it onboards you into what we call a Performance Max campaign. The problem with a Performance Max campaign is we can't even see the data. We don't know if our ad's doing well, if it's not doing well. It's very hard to see where your ad's being shown to. So right out the gate, you need to make sure that you are using the right campaign for your type of business. Let's say, for example, you were a dentist and you were looking for more leads. Performance Max might be the right campaign for you, but more likely than not, a search campaign would be a better campaign for you. So always try and make sure that you have the right campaign selected.
Let's assume now I've selected the right campaign type. Google takes me through like the settings and then slowly I get into like audience targeting. What's something that people miss in settings quite frequently?
There are a couple of things that I think a lot of people miss, but I think what I want to do is I actually want to show you guys on the Google Ads dashboard. Me and Pam are going to talk you through, and we're actually going to do it that way because I think you guys need something a little bit more visual than just two people talking on a podcast. So let's look at, got our settings over here. Can everybody see what I've got on my screen at the moment?
One thing I just want to share with you guys real quick. You see right now the new interface here. And depending on when you watch this, you might still be in the old interface of Google Ads. In some instances, some accounts, you have the chance to switch to the new appearance. So on the very top, the fourth icon from the right side is appearance. It's these two like rectangles intertwined. And there you can switch back and forth, ideally between the new and the old interface. For example, I don't have that. I used to have it and now I don't have it anymore. So Google is still rolling that out. The way that settings looks like here is going to look very much very similar to the old interface. So just follow along. Let's go to settings.
All right, cool. So what I want to do is I want to go like I'm starting a brand new Google Ads campaign because I think this is going to give you guys the best flow. So I'm going to go create, I'm going to go campaign. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to resume, if it allows me to resume one of my old drafts. So firstly, I'm going to choose leads. All of my account conversion goals are a mess over here, but we'll talk about that on a different episode. And we're going to go over here. Now, you see here we have a performance max, but we also have a search, a display, a shopping, a video, a demand gen. Let's say somebody's flustered and they're like, where do I start off? What's the best way to start off with Google Ads? Which one would you choose?
Search.
I would agree with that 1000% as well. You always want to start off with search, even if Performance Max, you're getting a lot of good news about Performance Max. Guys, if you want to learn Google Ads and you really want to get good at Google Ads and you want to become a master and you want to know that no matter what happens, you'll always be able to make money, we recommend search. We're not recommending search because it's the absolute best of the best. We're recommending this because it'll make your life easier in the long run. Now, once I do that, I'm just going to put in my website over here quickly. Just go and grab it. And once I do that, as you can see, I've got all of these campaign drafts over here, and I'm going to select one because if I don't, it's going to keep on coming up and showing me that campaign draft message. So now I'm going into the new campaign over here, and automatically, as you can see, they've selected target cost per acquisition and target CPA for me. Usually, also what you'll see is it starts off something like this. Now, Pamela, what do you think? Should we focus on conversions for a brand new account?
Ideally, I'd like to get started with manual CPC. If you're absolutely new, let that run for like 2 weeks and then let the system gather data, because ideally it works with historic data. And if you start off completely from scratch, it doesn't have any historic data in your account to work with. And if you have conversion tracking set up, then you can change it to conversions after those first 2 to 3 weeks. Also here, what's important to know is for some of you in this interface, you might not get bidding as the second option. You might get to campaign settings straight, and bidding might be a little bit after. So if you don't see bidding right now, just scroll forward to the video, go to campaign settings, and then come back again to this section.
If you guys are looking for a quick tutorial on just how to set up manual CPC, just go to the Neptune Design YouTube channel. But I think we should also have a discussion of, if you're brand new, you don't know what manual CPC is. Like, is it a mode? Is it a setting? What is manual CPC exactly?
Google Ads, you have, I think, about 12 or 14 different bidding strategies overall in total. And trust me, nobody knows them by heart. You'd never need to. Manual CPC pretty much says that you set the bid that you are willing to bid on in order for your keyword to show up and have a good rank in the auction. And this is quite manual in the beginning, but it's the best option to get started with so that you get a feel for bidding, for an auction, and then also how much you're going to pay. Note that you're never going to pay what you bid. You will always pay less than that.
The way I like to explain this to my students is, if you choose any of these settings over here, you can think of them like autopilot. If you get into a plane, yes, anyone can put a plane on autopilot and the plane will fly itself. However, you might get turbulence, you might get some problems, and this is why you want to start off in manual CPC, because manual CPC is basically learning how to fly the plane by yourself. You can land the plane, you can take off, and you can handle whatever turbulence you get. If you use these settings, you'll be a great pilot until a storm shows up. And then you will quickly get found out that you don't know what you're doing. And for a lot of digital marketers and marketing agencies, this is kind of where they lose a lot of clients, because they know how to just flip it on and say conversions, but when it doesn't work, they don't know what to do next. So be very mindful of that.
Now, since we're on the subject of ad setup and getting your ads set up properly, what I want to do is I want to offer you a chance to copy my personal ad settings. The ad settings that I'm using right now in my business to generate leads and sales. And you can do that with my Google Ads Setup Cheat Sheet. Now, included in the Setup Cheat Sheet is over 22 settings that I'm using right now to generate new business in my business. What I'm also gonna do is I'm gonna include a little mini course. So if you're a Google Ads beginner and you just wanna find out how to get your first 100 leads, maybe you just wanna learn the dashboard so you can feel a little bit more confident, that's in there as well. Now, you can find all of this at the link in the description below, and let's get back to the show.
Now that we've done that, we get into the section where it's kind of asking me about the search network thing. Should I include search partners? And also a display network thing. Is this good? Is this bad? Like, what should I do over here?
So always untick display network. If you get started, I would leave the search partners in there because later on is actually a report that shows you whether they were useful to you or not. And then you can always untick the box later if you don't see that it's beneficial. There are some rare occasions where search partners are actually beneficial. So I would say in the beginning, just leave them in there.
If you guys want an example of what this display network is, because we get this little bubble that pops up. Now, guys, you're going to notice this while we're going through setting up this ad. Every time that we tell you to select something, you're going to see a little yellow warning bubble coming up saying, no, 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 that's a bad idea. You're going to lose conversions. Look at all of the money that you're leaving on the table. You got to be very careful with this. This is where we get into the territory of manipulation, because Google Ads knows that if they suggest to you that you might reach more people or you might get more conversions, you also have to look at this language that they use here. They say, show your ads in more places and get more conversions at a similar cost per action, right? If you go into Google Ads wording, like if you go into the fine print, they never explicitly state that you are definitely going to get more conversions or you are definitely going to get more clicks or more customers. This is all hypothetical. So just because you see this bubble doesn't mean you did anything wrong, doesn't mean you broke your Google Ads. It's just literally Google trying to give you a gentle nudge in the right direction.
If we would talk about this legally, it's very close to false advertising. I'm very critical of these messages because it's literally telling you that you would get more conversion. So if you don't read the fine print, you're going to be like, oh, nice. But actually, I've rarely ever seen a display campaign that brings me the conversion at the same cost as like a search campaign.
So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to the next window. By the way, if you're still a little bit confused about the display network and what exactly it is, Pamela, what's the fastest way that we can just explain to them what the display network is and why it's not advisable for their ads to be on that?
So very simple, a display network is the banner ads that you see online. Those have a very different way of targeting, a very different way of being optimized, and also a very different way of bidding for them. So if you mix both in one campaign together, you're going to get extremely mixed performance. You cannot optimize properly for search. You're just going to have a much worse performance than if you just split up those campaign types into two separate ones.
Going down here, this is my favorite section. This is where the clients go, wow, this Devon guy really knows what he's talking about. So check this out. You would assume that because I'm in South Africa right now and I'm choosing South Africa here, that automatically my ads are going to be shown in South Africa. However, you need to be aware where it says location options over here, there are one or two settings. Pam, talk us through what's happening right here. If I selected South Africa here, isn't my ad going to show in South Africa? Like, why is this important?
See, these are the aspects that sometimes for me are already so obvious to choose that I tend to forget how important this actually is when you just get started with it. Anyway, let's choose South Africa. And you're like, oh, but like I see my ad report that people from India saw the ad or people from, I don't know, Saudi Arabia saw the ad. And that's because you've kept this box ticked here, which pretty much says that anybody who's present or has ever shown an interest in South Africa can see your ad. So let's say somebody in Saudi Arabia was looking for holidays in South Africa, then that person would even count for that, even though you're actually a locksmith and targeting people looking for a locksmith. So that's why it's important to choose the second option that you just ticked here, presence people in a regularly in your targeted location. The first one, I literally only ever choose if I deal with something in the tourism industry.
Yeah.
So for example, we have a client who's into the grocery delivery business. And so we take the first box because we want people who've shown an interest in the country to see the ads as well.
Guys, you have to remember one thing. This over here, it's almost a completely hidden setting. This is where we go back to the manipulation thing, because if we look at every single Google Ads dashboard, what you're going to notice is all of the prominent settings, all of the settings that when we started our careers, they used to just display this. You didn't have to, it wasn't hidden behind anything. You could just see it. And now what you're going to notice is more and more of the options are slowly but surely disappearing. So you have to go hunt for them and you have to go look for them. And that's why we made this podcast episode, because we literally want to show you where all of the good settings are. But if you were just running through a campaign and you said, I want to set this thing up in 2 minutes and I want to go back to my business, you'd probably never think to look in this section over here.
Google's official statement about this is that it wants to make things easier for advertisers, right? That it wants to make it more accessible for more people to run ads and everything. You can't really blame Google for that. It has lost the ability to see its own platform from the eyes of a newbie, which technically you should actually hire someone to advise you on that. It's not made for newbies. It's gotten far too complex to just have somebody get on the platform and start a campaign and be successful with it. That's not how it works anymore.
I think a lot of people also have this misconception that if you set up your campaign, you can get a consultant in. But guys, you also need to understand that a consultant is also going to work with the ad data that he has right now. But if fundamentally you have the wrong settings, if you think about building a house, the settings are kind of like the foundation of a good Google Ads campaign. Now, let's say, for example, you have a Performance Max campaign or a Demand Gen campaign, which I'm trying out right now, and you're finding that your results are pretty bad. It could be the case that you are running the wrong campaign type for your business. And yes, you can pay a consultant. They can come in and they might look at the data and give you a couple of insights, but you should also be very mindful of the fact that it could be that you're running a completely wrong campaign altogether, and possibly on top of that, making it even worse by running the wrong settings with that wrong campaign. Now, I know this is scary, but that's also why me and Pam are putting out so much content on Google Ads. The answers are there, the information is there, but you just have to take it a little bit more slowly, and you need to make sure that you're more knowledgeable about the platform that you advertise on. And it's just like everything in life. If you want to go fishing, watch a couple of videos on fishing first. You know, it might help you out. You might actually come back with a fish. But if you're just going to go out there and aimlessly throw your fishing rod without knowing if you have the right bait or not, you might not catch something every single time you go out. And we don't want you to be that person. There's something very curious that I wanted your perspective of. That is your audience segments. Now, I always tell my students not to use audiences, but I'm very mindful of the fact that, Pamela, you've gotten some amazing results by actually going into the Google Analytics, finding the audiences that convert the most, and then using them in the search ad campaign. Would you say that's a beginner level strategy, or would you say that's something that's a little bit more advanced?
Skip that. It's just going to be more confusing. In the settings section, I can't even believe this next box that they put it right in there. Like, why are you bringing this up here? This box literally does not make any sense. And the same with the automatically created assets.
Let's talk a little bit about what's happening here. When you have these keyword match types, the idea behind them is whatever match type you choose, that's kind of how your keywords are going to show up on search. Now, some of you are saying, yeah, but Devin, are you crazy? Because if I choose the keyword pizza, I want to show up for pizza. If I choose the keyword used car, I want to show up for used cars. So what difference does it make how Google Ads matches my keyword? Why can't I just put the keyword in and Google will figure out the rest? Here's the problem. Google Ads has this notorious habit of making your ad show up for the wrong search results. And this could eat up to 50, 40, in some cases I've seen even 70% of your complete ad budget for the day. Imagine you're advertising on used car, but they keep on showing your ad every time somebody types in brand new BMW. That's kind of just going to eat up your budget, because you're going to have people clicking thinking that, oh, this is a dealership that sells new cars, but then you're a dealership that sells used cars. So they leave immediately. And this is why match types are so important. We've always been able to use broad match or phrase match or exact match. But now Google Ads has decided that no. What we're going to do is we're going to make you select if you want to start off with broad match or if you want to use keyword match. This is exactly the same thing. You should be able to change your keyword match types whenever you want, for whatever reason you want. There should not be the setting over here. This is another way how Google Ads gets you to default into this particular setting, because this is the one that makes them more money. It's for their pockets. It's not for your pockets. In fact, this whole flow is just designed to give Google Ads as much money as possible. Pamela, do you want to cover the automatically created assets, or is there maybe something you want to just chip in with when it comes to the broad match keywords?
I think for now, like, just say no to anything that's automatically created. Usually I've never seen any useful outcome from that. The one question that comes to mind here that sometimes people ask as well is, Devin, am I going to get punished if I don't accept Google's recommendations here?
The only thing that you will get punished with is maybe optimization score, but I guarantee you something: you cannot pay your rent with optimization score. You cannot pay your child's tuition with optimization score. The only thing that's going to happen is you might end up choosing some of these settings and you might get a slightly smaller optimization score. But remember, we're in marketing for business. What do we want? We want the best leads at the cheapest price for our business, and we want to build a campaign that's scalable. We want to build a campaign that's profitable, and we want to build a campaign that we can rely on, because this is basically our business. This is how we earn our income. So all of these settings that we've just talked you through, it's not a punishment from Google, but Google is always going to kind of try and make you lean into choosing the settings that they want. And they're going to tell you, yeah, your optimization score is going to take a hit. But in the long run, if you are making profit and if you have a good, reliable, sustainable marketing campaign, you shouldn't really care about your optimization score that much. Don't worry. Some of you are saying, yeah, but optimization score is super important because it affects this and it affects that. We will come back and we're going to address optimization score properly. But I can assure you this, there are no extra punishment.
Now, 9 years ago, I used to work at Google. And 8 years ago, I founded my own ad agency, Ajala Digital. And since then, we've helped over 3,000 advertisers all over the world grow with Google Ads. No matter where they're based on this globe, they have one challenge in common. They are usually tired of having to figure it all out on their own with ads and not getting the return that they're looking for. If you're currently tired of your ads, if you're tired of figuring it out on your own, and you need help of a real specialist and expert, then feel free to reach out. Check the link in the description below.
More settings. Always click on more settings. They just make it a small blue button. So when I teach my students, I always tell them always click on the blue buttons. And also this aspect, more settings, can appear in different areas of your screen right now. It could be that what you see here right now is not entirely the way that your settings are structured. So the boxes could still be moved a little bit in terms of order. Here, ad rotation is probably the most important one. That's where I also always tell people is first, choose always do not optimize, rotate ads indefinitely. And then after 2-3 weeks, just choose optimize, prefer best performing ads. And here, one thing you got to know is the two options are grayed out. They have been grayed out for 3 years so far. Google developers have not managed to remove these options. They're never going to work again. You're never going to be able to choose them. These are old options. That's why they're grayed out. Google just simply hasn't managed to remove something that's not even supported anymore. Yeah, start off with do not optimize. After 2-3 weeks, change to optimize. And once you've done that, then you can really go to next and see the next interface.
One thing I've also noticed is Google, the parent company, when they get taken to court, they are always saying that, no, these options are available for advertisers. Advertisers can choose these options anytime they want. And it's just a lie. I'm not making this up. It's literally a lie. Like, I think they said with video ads that you have the option to opt out of the display network whenever you want. It's literally in black and white. Anyone can read this. I will post the article at the link below. They said that you can just opt out whenever you want. And that is just not the truth. So sometimes when an option is grayed out, and if you really, really, really want to access that option because you think it's the best thing for your campaign, there is another flow that I'm going to show you after we get done with this campaign, where you can maybe see some settings that you're not allowed to use in this particular flow. But for these two, good luck. You're probably never, ever going to be able to select them, just like Pam said.
What do you think if we go into the recommendations section now to show people a couple of the recommendations that Google gives where it's actually really, really misleading?
Let's go and let's look at our recommendations. Now, I've only got demand gen running over here, but let's see what they say. And I've also got it on $1 per day. Let's see if I can't get all of my campaigns to show. Maybe it'll show me. There we go. Let's look at all of these recommendations. Let's talk a little bit about optimization score. Guys, do you remember the old cartoons that used to show a donkey with a carrot in front of it, pulling a wagon? And the donkey never got to the carrot, but the donkey always was pulling the wagon because it was trying to get to the carrot. That's kind of how I explain to my students what optimization score is. Guys, I've had this bar full, 100%, amazing optimization score, and I got 0 conversions on my campaign. This is not a guarantee of anything. This will not lead to great financial outcomes. And usually when I speak to business owners are like, Devin, I've got a full 100% optimization score. I don't need you. I don't need your services. Look at my optimization score. I have optimized my campaign. Pam, what would you say to somebody who says they've optimized their campaign because they are at 93.6%?
You still don't have 100% because 100% is always better than 93.6%. But also that, see, Google just doesn't add up to your optimization score when you accept something. Like that's what a lot of people think. Oh, if I don't accept it, it's not going to go up. It's actually not true. If you dismiss an optimization, the score is going to go up as well by exactly the same percentage. Literally try it with the first one. Improve your demand gen ads. Just click on the 3 dots and dismiss all, and you'll see how it's going to go up. You don't need to choose anything even. Just dismiss.
Oh, yay. Wow. Look at that. And now my campaign is like, I'm a G now. I can retire.
You're gonna be an OG soon. So with the upload customer match list, same here. You can just dismiss that, and you'll see you're gonna be up at 100 in no time. And I discovered that just by being rebel me, because I don't want to accept anything that anybody tells me oftentimes. And the problem here is now it's not going to stay 100%. Guess what? Google is going to keep giving you recommendations and putting down your recommendation score or optimization score. So ideally, what you want to do is at least once a week, or if some campaigns run well, like once every 2 weeks, go through your campaigns, through your recommendations, and just dismiss the ones that are not useful to you. In the end, what you really only need to do is you really only need to look at the recommendations that actually have a metric or a number next to the percentage. Because if you look here, there's a lot of boxes, right? It's a lot of information. So how are you going to know what's relevant? Only the ones that are going to make a difference on your score that actually have a score next to them. If they don't have a score, you don't need to do anything. You can use it as an inspiration maybe. If you haven't updated your ads in a long time, cool, maybe do that. But other than that, only focus on the ones that have a score. And once they're gone, you're done.
Do you mind just talking them through what are the things in your campaign that you should look for that are actually good indicators of whether a campaign is going well, except for your optimization score?
The other aspect is the click-through rate. A lot of people obsess many times about the cost per click. And I know that when somebody obsesses over the cost per click, they don't really know how Google Ads works. The cost per click is going to be ever changing. And Google, of course, is going to increase its cost per click because that's how it makes money. So that's only natural for it to go up over time. What you really need to focus is your cost per conversion or your conversion rate, right? And how many conversions you got. So which keywords is the best performing according to whatever you want to measure. When somebody says best performing, also always ask the question according to what metric. And so really determine if you're measuring by click-through rate, by cost per conversion, and so on, and then judge your campaign performance according to that.
In front of me, I have a campaign over here. And one thing I can do is, and even if I just enable this campaign, hopefully it's not going to ask me to do anything weird. One thing I can do is I can look at my optimization score over here. I can go and I can focus on my optimization score. But guys, this is really not going to tell you anything. It doesn't tell you how many leads you got in. Doesn't tell you how many people are clicking on your ad. Doesn't tell you how much your leads are costing you, which costs you money, by the way. All this does is it's just a fancy little score over here. So what you want to do is you want to look at your cost per conversion. Very important metric. And what Pamela is saying over here is if we go to average CPC, you can see that your clicks are costing you $1. Let's say you drop this down to 50 cents per click. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a good job. In fact, you could actually be hurting your campaign by trying to reduce costs as much as possible. What you want to do is you want to actually look at the keywords and you want to see which keywords are leading to good outcomes for you. So in other words, which keywords are burning through money and which keywords are actually making you money. So if you come to this little search keywords menu, you're going to see all of your keywords. You're going to see your conversion rate if you have these enabled. And if you don't, all you need to do is click on columns, modify columns, and you get all of this goodness over here. what I like to call the sauce. You get all of the sauciness over here, and you can apply any of these settings. So if I click on this, if I say apply over here, notice if I go all the way to the right hand side, I now have this extra column over here. And this is when we talk about data, because you hear me and Pam say data, data all of the time. And you're thinking, what does this mean? Do they mean like my average CPC? No, this is what we mean by data. This is a full, transparent report that Google can't hide from you, and it's showing you exactly where your money is going. Now, Pam, I've got this message over here that tells me that my campaign is eligible, but it's limited and it's below the first page bid. What should I do in this circumstance?
In this case, it depends if you are really, really focused on your budget or if you just want to go get ahead of your competitors. So sometimes I advise clients to really increase it to that first page bid to get ahead of their competitors for like a couple of weeks, then put it down again. Because what we've seen mostly is that if you keep increasing it according to like Google's recommendation, you just keep increasing it forever and ever. But when you actually decrease it again to, let's say, a more decent amount, however much decent means for you, then you're still going to be able to keep up with the performance, and you're going to be able to see what's kind of like the sweet spot for you where you still make it, but you don't pay too much.
One of my students, Tara, she's always asking me about this, and I told her that exact same thing, whereby yes, you will match this today, and then next week all of a sudden it's telling you that $4 is the minimum. So her question to me was, but Devin, how do I know that I'm actually maxing it out? Like, how do I know that I'm spending the correct amount? What are your indicators? What are the sets of data that you look at so that you know that, okay, this is the correct max CPC to be at, Pam? I know it's kind of a loaded question, but I'm really interested in your answer.
I just go with how the conversions keep coming in, right? Like, are my conversions actually going up and my cost per conversion going down? If not, if my cost per conversion keeps going up, then I'm not going to like increase anything here, or I'm going to set it back again to the last amount that I had.
And guys, this is what we mean when we say data. You see, this is real, this is accurate data. Now, the reason why we brought all of this weirdness on the podcast episode and why we want to talk about all of this weird stuff is there's actually a very nice article that just got released.
Are you being manipulated by Google Ads?
There we go.
The persuasion tactics to outsmart the house. So we got some really, really interesting wording here. The clickbait definitely worked on me. So the question is, do you know when you're being manipulated?
Yeah.
Right? So what are the default settings, hidden options, and so on? I mean, we already talked about this, right? The display network. These are, I would say, one of the trickiest things because most people don't even know about it, and it's so hidden. Like there's only 3 dots and you have to know exactly where to find those 3 dots. Now, if you look at an average Google Ads interface, you're like, what the heck? Like there's so many options. How am I ever going to find them? And this article, which we'll link in the description, describes it perfectly. So you have the step-by-step description here on how to turn off automatically created assets.
Also, guys, sorry to interrupt you, Pam, but if you wanna direct breakdown, Pam actually does this in episode 1 of the podcast, so you can go in. I think we've time-stamped it for you, and she's actually walked you through it. So even if you're reading the article and you're going, yeah, but where's all of the stuff? Check out episode 1. We'll also link it down in the description below.
And then also how to protect yourself from deceptive patterns, right? So this is something that we talked about today at a length. But like, really, just be in the interface. Just get the practice, watch videos, be in there. And the more time you spend in the interface, the better you're going to get to know it.
Just wrapping up this episode, one of the scariest things for me is that when you're a newbie, if you don't know what you don't know. So if you're a newbie, there's no way that you're going to go look for deceptive patterns because you don't even know that those deceptive patterns are there. There's no way that you're going to know that optimization score is really just something that Google throws at you. And I think the rule of thumb, the thing that I tell all of my students, everybody who comes to me from consulting, is never trust Google. I know it sounds harsh, but you have to look at business metrics because you're a business person and you have to look at where your budget is being spent. If you were gambling, my advice to you would be never trust the casino. Yes, the casino will always tell you if you roll your dice a little bit more, you might get lucky. it doesn't mean you're going to get lucky. And that's kind of how I explain it to my students. Pam, is there anything that you tell business owners, or maybe tell students, or tell people with Google Ads when they're getting to know this stuff for the first time and they're kind of confused?
Trust in your own ability to learn. So
Wow.
many people have done it before. You are a grown adult. You have a lot of life experience and you have a lot of gut feeling that will guide you in making the right decisions, combined with learning it step by step.
Pam, I'd like to thank you for being on this podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, I hope you learned something. And as you can see, we took you through the screen share. So we're not hiding anything. We don't want you to come out and hire us. Even if you never hire us before, we don't want you making these mistakes. But of course, if you do want to hire us, you can check out the links in the description below if you want to reach out to Pam or reach out to myself. The final thing we want to leave you with is, guys, stay trusting in yourself. Trust the process, but don't take any shortcuts from Google, because they are not going to take you to good places.
Thank you so much for watching this podcast episode to the end. I really appreciate it. And let us know what you thought, and also let us know what you're struggling with in your ad account so that we can make more content about that. Last but not least, if you're listening to us on a streaming platform, what I want you to do is just give us a rating for the show or a review of the show. It'll really help us create the kind of content you want to hear, and it'll also help us reach a lot of new listeners as well. Furthermore, if you're looking for something to watch next, you can check out this episode where we talk about how your website could be hurting your ad performance. See you on the next one. Peace.